So if you've been around the channel for any extended period of time, you've probably heard me talk about the importance of establishing pipelines to Florida whenever we're talking about recruiting. And the reason's quite simple. It's because there is such a dense concentration of talent in the state of Florida. Every institution in the nation needs to be setting up camp there. But one of the things we've also talked about is how fun it's been watching the in-state institutions battle each other for some of these top-tier guys. And today, we're going to be breaking down a battle where Miami gets a huge win for one of the nation's top prospects and five-star offensive tackle Samson Okunlola. A day in which they got a win over the likes of the Florida Gators and Michigan State. Before we can jump into this, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes and N for no, and two questions today. The first, are you excited that Miami gets Samson Okunlola? Let me know what you're thinking. And the second, do you believe these recruiting wins will translate into wins on the field? Can't wait to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like, comment down below. Those interactions may seem small, but they really are massive for content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And we need to start, before we can start addressing any of the questions posed in the intro, who is Samson Okunlola? And Samson Okunlola is the number 20 player in the nation, the number 3 offensive tackle in the nation, and this is a huge win. Because Miami now has commitments from 2 of the top 3 offensive tackles in the nation, both of which being 5-star guys. And this week in and of itself was big for the Miami Hurricanes. You get another big recruiting win for Rueben Bain. So Mario Cristobal has been able to recruit at such a high level. And we can see that when Miami ranks in the top 5 recruiting classes in the nation. And when we look at this class from top to bottom, there's a lot Miami fans need to be excited about. I don't think you could be any more excited about having 2 5-star offensive linemen when the offensive line has been such a position of need for the Hurricanes for quite some time. Now, in fairness, I think many people that were Miami fans probably assumed that whenever you hired Mario Cristobal, being that he's an offensive line guy, and he brought in Mirabal, the offensive line coach from Oregon, I think a lot of people in the Miami fan base probably justifiably assumed that the offensive line was going to be the first order of business. And now that we have seen Mario Cristobal have a full year with Miami, he's got a greater understanding of the needs of that program, and he is attacking recruiting that offensive line, getting 2 5-star guys. That's huge for Miami. But one of the questions I posed to all of you in the intro, will these recruiting wins translate to wins on the field? Because if we go, Miami's recruited at such a high level. They have 3 5-stars, like I've already said, the 2 offensive tackles, but also the number 1 defensive back in the nation, Kermani McClain. And they were able to get a big win there over the likes of Alabama, Florida, and several other institutions that really wanted McClain because he is such a gifted prospect, a top 5 player in all of high school football, deservedly so. He is a really, really great cornerback, someone that could be a day 1 contributor for the Hurricanes. So Mario Cristobal is no stranger to recruiting wins. In fact, if we go through his entire career, that's something he has been proud of and shown us wherever he's gone. You look at Oregon, you look at the recruiting wins he got there, and it's not slowing down now that he's at Miami. But will this turn into results on the field? And this is going to be something we have to watch. Rome wasn't built in a day, and Miami wants to get back to being a prominent institution like they were in the early 2000s, but it's going to take time. And Miami's prominence is one of those situations where it's just far enough removed from our minds to be a distant memory, but it hasn't been long enough to where we've forgotten about it. Many of us that are college football fans still remember the Miami teams that were so vaunted, that have really carried the Hurricanes' legacy through the 2000s, and the Hurricanes look to get back to there. One of the first ways you have to get back is by acquiring talent, especially when you look around college football, and that's the name of the game, talent acquisition. But then you have to be able to develop your talent. You have to put them in positions that are conducive to success, and that's what we're going to have to watch and see from Miami. This year was not a banner year for the Hurricanes, and I don't think anybody in the Hurricanes fan base, if they would have had a bingo board, would have checked off what happened this year in Mario Cristobal's first year. It was a little bit deflating. But one thing we have got to be aware of is you have got to give your guy time. Mario Cristobal needs patience. He needs time to implement the changes that he thinks are going to result in success and get the team where he wants them. In year number 1, if we're going to be 100% fair, he dealt with a lot of injuries and he walked into a situation where he probably didn't have the best understanding of the needs of the team, and then by the time he started to get that understanding, injuries were left, right, and center. And if you talk to people that have been around locker rooms, one of the things they'll tell you is by the time you get to the season, most of your learning is done. Your learning occurs in spring camp and fall camp. That's whenever you're learning the playbook, whenever you're drilling all this. When it gets to spring, it's time for reps because live action is here. It's a little late to really start learning something. It's for the same reason I've always kind of pushed back on those that have pointed to Quinn Ewers being a third-string quarterback at Ohio State when the kid got there in August, and he should have been a senior in high school. Number one, that Ohio State quarterback room was loaded. Number two, yeah, he got there in August whenever they're focused on reps. It wouldn't have made any sense for Ryan Day to elevate him instantly to the number 2 quarterback on that roster whenever he doesn't even have an understanding of the playbook. That never would have made sense. Mario Cristobal is in a situation where he had so many injuries and now he hasn't even had the time to really implement the changes fully because he hasn't even been there a full year, and it results in a season that is anything but banner. So what's Mario Cristobal going to do going forward? Well, that remains to be seen, but one of the first things you have got to do is acquire talent. And that's something Miami's been able to do, and they have been able to do it in amazing fashion. One of the things I'll leave you with, if you're a big fan of recruiting, which you probably are if you find yourself watching this video, look at the battles we've been treated to this year. I mean, first and foremost, recruiting around the nation has just been a ton of fun this year. But secondly, whenever we look at this battle that Miami and Florida have had this entire year, you look at Cormani McLean, you look at Samson Okunlola, you look at Jaden Rashada, who Miami got over Florida, and then Florida was able to flip. It has been so much fun watching recruiting in the state of Florida. And even though I just got done preaching that, yes, Mario Cristobal needs time, the clock is ticking. And the reason the clock is ticking is because you have competition in your own state, not only from outside forces, certainly from outside forces, but from forces within. UCF is going to be a Power 5 school sooner rather than later. It's going to be interesting to see what that does for them. Florida State had a better year than I think anybody would have anticipated. If they can back that up, well, now you have another player entering the chat, and Miami and Florida have been going back and forth all year. Recruiting is as fun as it can be right now. I cannot wait for early signing day to get here. Y'all already know I'm so excited for that, but I can't wait to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking, not only about this win, but about the status of Miami recruiting as a whole. That's it. See ya.